What is one of the biggest memories that you have from the war?
Um, so I think the biggest thing was taking somebody that was wounded out 13 miles out to sea where a hospital ship was taking on stores. In other words, they were getting resupplied themselves, fuel and medical things. And it was high seas, and it was very hard fighting the wind going out there. And we had to make an approach on a ship that was its screw and propeller, not propeller, but its drive screw was coming out of the water 30 feet. It was pitching huge. We had to land on it because the guy that we had was going to die if we didn't. That's probably the biggest thing I had. We made the landing, touchdown, and they came and got him, and we left. So, why was that a memory? Because the deck that we were landing on was coming up and going down, coming up and going down. And if you don't time it just right, when you come up and you start lowering your pitch, you're going to follow it down and it's going to come up and split your skids and you crash. And that's not good either.
What kind of technology was used during the war?
For the time, it seemed like everything was advanced technology, but for you right now, nothing seems like it would be advanced technology. But our helicopter was nothing like some of the helicopters today, which really have so much stability augmentation systems, which means they will fly themselves in a sense. If you're going at some distance, you can put on the automatic pilot, and that actually will keep you straight and level. And stability augmentation means that you can hold it wherever. See, a helicopter works with power, is called the collective, and a cyclic is the control of the rotor itself. And if this is boring, I'm sorry. But when the rotor tilts, that means you go forward. Rotor is brought backwards, it means you go backwards when you're in a hover. And stability augmentation means that there are all kinds of gyros and things that will keep you in a position. We never had anything like that. So the technology was then, McNamara thought he could stop. He was the Secretary of State under Kennedy. He thought he could stop the penetration of the North to the South by putting up a fence. And they had an electronic fence, and it was quite awesome. It cost millions of dollars to build it, going across the DMZ between North and South Vietnam. That fence was absolutely useless. It was nothing but an expenditure of money. Guys got killed putting it in and everything else.
Was there any kind of remorse for people who died during the war? Like, was there any sort of ceremony or like thought towards the people who had been killed?
Ceremonies, no. You can imagine that you feel sorry, you feel bad. And I had friends that did die. I had friends that were wounded and I never saw them again. I have hoped they had a life that was meaningful after that. I never did.
What was the training like before the war?
Have you ever heard of OCS, Officer Candidate School?
No.
Okay, Officer Candidate School is what we call RLOs, real live officers. That's guys that are lieutenants and captains and majors and colonels and generals. That's what we call real life. We were not those. We were warrant officers. Warrant officers were trained for a specific thing, and the Air Force would not let the Army make them sergeants. They had to make them officers of some kind. So the officers that were trained to be real live officers were given 6 months of training, and that turned out that they became a second lieutenant after the end of that. We were given 9 months of the same kind of training, except we also had to learn how to fly helicopters, and when we turned out, we were called Mr. Not lieutenant anything. All the warrant officer is Mr. He's not sergeant, but he's not what we considered real live officers. So the real live officers we could laugh at and be just like an enlisted man and think how silly they are, but we were officers and the enlisted men had to salute us, so we felt we were superior. in that sense.
Do you remember any of your instructors?
Flight instructors, or just instructors and trying to teach us how to be officers and gentlemen?
Any of them?
Not really. Flight instructors, I think my first flight instructor, I only remember because I figured since I was already a pilot, I should know how to fly that helicopter better than anybody else in my class. You have to go through training and classes. And other guys were soloing before I was, and they didn't know squat about aviation. And but
a flight instructor also when you
I
came back
became
from
one.
Vietnam?
Yeah, I became one.
You could tell them that.
But I asked my flight instructor, why is everybody else soloing and I'm not? He said, because you were a pilot and you got bad habits, and I got to break you of those. So when I did solo, I was the 13th guy in my class to solo. I did it on the 13th day at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. 1 o'clock is 1,300 hours. And on top of that, it was a Friday, and the day was the 13th. 13, 13, 13, 13. And I thought that is not lucky. And I figured, for some reason, by the time I got to be 25, that would be the last I would see of life, that I would die. Don't know why, but that had meant, I thought, that's a possibility. Guess where I was on my birthday when I turned 25? I was in Vietnam, ready to be sacrificed for the sake of everyone else in the country. There you go.
What % of the people you picked up were already good?
I think the one on my first mission was what we call the Kilo, Killed in Action. That one, I hope, was already dead, because he certainly was when I cut the cable. But other than that, it was not our mission to risk life or limb or kilos for those that were already killed. That was a job of logistics. When the planes came in to unload supplies, food and things like that, dead bodies is their job to take out of. But they would not go out and land in a hot zone to pick up someone that was dead. Obviously, if you're already gone, there's no reason to risk somebody else to pick up your body. So I think none already did, and I don't think any died while we were transporting them. I have no memory of ever having anybody die on the way in.